There's a man in Los Angeles who can predict your divorce before it happens. Not a psychic, not a therapist, a divorce attorney. 30 years in, thousands of cases, every possible way a marriage can collapse spread across his desk like broken glass. And after 3 decades of watching relationships die, he figured something out. Something nobody talks about. He told me, Asterisk, tell me what she does for a living, and I'll tell you how this ends. Asterisk. The first time I heard that, I thought he was being cynical, reductive, looking for simple answers where the truth is complicated. Then he started listing the patterns. Specific careers, specific relationship breakdowns, specific timelines. Not perfect. Nothing in human behavior is perfect, but consistent enough that he began mentally filing cases the moment a new client told him his wife's occupation. That stopped me cold. Because if a man who has watched thousands of marriages collapse from the inside is finding patterns tied to profession, that information deserves to be heard. So today we're going to have a conversation that almost nobody is willing to have publicly. Not to judge women, not to say careers are wrong, but because patterns exist and patterns carry information, and information can protect you from a decade of pain. The core principle nobody wants to admit. Here's the uncomfortable truth that everything else builds on. The environment defeats character. Every time. Eventually, asterisk, asterisk. We want to believe people are fixed. That the woman you fall in love with is the woman you'll still be with in year 12. That character holds. That love protects. It doesn't. Human beings are adaptation machines. We mirror the people around us. We absorb the values of our daily context. Our sense of normal recalibrates constantly based on what we're exposed to. Her job is 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for years. That's not a side influence. That's the dominant force shaping who she becomes. You're not just marrying her. You're marrying everything that's reshaping her. Pattern number 1. The gossip bath beauty industry. Hair salons, nail studios, spas. These environments have something in common. Women talk. And what do they talk about? Relationship problems. Every day, your wife sits in that chair listening to a parade of stories about men who cheat, men who disappoint, men who fail. She's not choosing to absorb negativity, but her brain doesn't filter for sample bias. It just accumulates data. The data says, men are the problem. After 3 years of that daily download, she's looking at you through a lens shaped by 1,000 women's worst experiences. You do something minor, and suddenly you're a pattern she recognizes. You dislike all of them. The trust that marriage needs quietly erodes. Not because of anything you did, because of what she absorbed. And then there's the comparison trap. She's hearing about the husband who flew his wife to Paris, the boyfriend who sends flowers every week. She's comparing your Tuesday to their anniversary, your average to their highlight reel. The gap between what I have and what I should have grows, not because you failed, but because comparison became her default setting. Pattern number 2, the attention saturation, high visibility jobs, bartenders, receptionists at luxury venues, pharmaceutical sales reps, gym staff, promotional models, jobs where her appearance is part of the job, and male attention is constant. Here's what nobody tells you about constant attention. It stops being special. When 50 men notice you every day, one man's attention, yours becomes invisible. It doesn't register. Not because you're inadequate, because you just went in a crowd she stopped noticing. And something else happens. Ego inflation. She receives so much attention that her internal sense of market value inflates. She starts to feel she could have anyone. And when you feel that way, the fear of loss disappears. Fear of loss is what makes people fight for relationships. It's what makes you work through the hard conversation instead of walking away. When loss doesn't feel real, because there's always another option waiting, that motivation evaporates. This is why women in high-attention environments have statistically higher divorce rates. Not because they're bad people, because their environment destroyed the psychological mechanism that keeps relationships together. Pattern number 3, the validation loop, appearance monetized careers. Models, influencers, actresses, brand ambassadors. anyone whose income depends on being desired. In these roles, she learns one lesson deeply. Her beauty has transactional value. And once that frame is installed, once beauty becomes currency, it leaks into everything, including your relationship. Did you provide enough for the access she granted? Are you paying market rate? The transactional mindset that built her career starts pricing your marriage. And more dangerous, she becomes addicted to new validation. Not your sustained love that feels flat compared to the dopamine hit of fresh attention. Your genuine affection becomes background noise. She needs the spike, the new reaction, the confirmation that she still has it. Your love becomes like one drink offered to someone with a full addiction. It's never going to be enough. Pattern number 4, the expert trap, psychology and coaching careers. This one surprises people. Therapists, life coaches, counselors. Sounds ideal, right? She understands communication. She has tools. In practice, it often works in reverse. She doesn't argue with you. She diagnoses you. Your normal frustration becomes a defense mechanism. Your position becomes unprocessed trauma. Your disagreement becomes resistance. She has professional vocabulary to reframe every conflict so that she's the healthy one and you're the one who needs to be fixed. You're not having a discussion between equals anymore. You're a patient being assessed by someone who's already decided the verdict. Men married to therapists describe the same experience. They never feel like a partner. They feel like a case study. Pattern number 5, the high achiever collision, executive careers. These women built their success on specific traits: independence, self-reliance, competitiveness, never needing anyone. These traits are weapons in business. They're poison in marriage. Marriage is built on interdependence, needing each other, depending on each other, choosing partnership over individual victory. But she spent 15 years training the exact opposite. She learned that needing someone is a weakness. That cooperation is slower than solo execution. That winning is the goal. She brings that home. Marriage becomes a competition. You become her opponent, not her partner. Every discussion is a negotiation. Every conflict is a case to win. And the family gets scheduled like a quarterly review. What you're actually choosing. The divorce attorney doesn't predict outcomes because he's cynical. He predicts them because he's seen enough inputs and outputs to know the math. Certain environments produce certain people. Certain people produce certain marriages. And certain marriages produce certain endings. When you're evaluating a long-term partner, you're not just evaluating her. You're evaluating her world. Ask yourself 5 questions. 1. What does her job expose her to daily? Asterisk, asterisk. What stories does she absorb? What behaviors does she normalize? What is average in her environment? 2. How much male attention does she receive? Asterisk, asterisk. Has that attention inflated her expectations? Does individual commitment, yours, even register on her scale? 3. What does her industry believe about relationships? Asterisk, asterisk. Progressive, traditional, permissive, transactional. These values don't stay at work. They come home. For why did she choose this career? Profession reveals character. The woman drawn to perform needs an audience. The woman drawn to analysis needs control. The choice tells you something about the need it's meeting and whether that need is compatible with marriage. 5. What patterns exist already? Validation seeking, constant comparison, competing with you instead of partnering. Trust the pattern. Marriage doesn't soften patterns. It amplifies them. The illusion men sell themselves. Once we're married, she'll settle down. Once we have kids, her priorities will shift. I'm different. I'll be the exception. Almost never true. By the time she's 28, 30, 35, the wiring is established. The values are set. The orientation is fixed. You are not so uniquely special that you override decades of psychological formation. What you see is what you get. What you don't see yet will reveal itself after commitment makes leaving expensive. The final frame. This isn't about avoiding entire professions. Exceptions exist. Strong character can resist environmental pressure for a while. It's about understanding the odds. The man who gets blindsided by a marriage falling apart almost never traces it back to the right source. He doesn't see the 8 hours a day, the daily value download, the constant recalibration of her expectations, the gradual erosion of the psychological foundations that keep a marriage together. He just knows she changed. She didn't change randomly. She changed predictably. The attorney I mentioned, he's not pessimistic. He's informed. He's pattern recognizing. And the pattern he's identified deserves your attention before you sign a legal document that binds your finances, your home, your future children, and the next 40 years of your life. Choose wisely. Evaluate the environment, not just the person, because you're not marrying who she is today. You're marrying who her world is making her become.